And it's remaining breezy, particularly around the coasts in the west. That weather system clearing out into the North Sea during the evening time, but it does stay cloudy with further patchy rain across some hills in the west. High pressure starts to build through next week, temperatures rising to close to 20 Celsius by Wednesday.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very good afternoon into evening, I should say, 6 o'clock here in the GB newsroom. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, says the government will intervene if energy costs soar due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Oil and gas prices have surged as a result of Iran's effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil shipping route. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is expected to announce support packages to help households that use heating oil this week. The government's also considering halting its plans to raise fuel duty. Mr Miliband added that Britain could deploy thousands of mine-hunting drones to the Strait after President Trump urged allies to help secure the safety of oil tankers in the region. The UK's former National Security Advisor, Sir Mark Lyle-Grant, says re-establishing the route will not be easy.
We've seen 16 ships attacked by drones, and that's even before the mines come into effect. And that's going to make insurance very difficult. It's going to make the owners of the ships very reluctant to risk putting ships through the Straits of Hormuz. And that is having economic consequences right across the world. I mean, we talk about the petrol prices in this country, but actually the worst impact is in Asia, where there's been electricity outages, there's rationing of electricity, etc.
Israel says it's expanded the scope of its strikes to include more areas in western and central Iran. A video uploaded to social media shows heavy smoke rising above what is understood to be the IRGC police headquarters in the city of Hamadan. Meanwhile, 2 people have been injured following Iranian missile attacks in central Israel, which hit residential areas in Bnei Brak and Tel Aviv. It's reported operations at the UAE's main oil port on its eastern coast have now restarted after it was targeted by a drone on Saturday. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has told US broadcasters that Tehran never asked for a ceasefire after Donald Trump claimed Iran wanted a deal, but said the terms are not yet good enough to make one. 3 arrests have been made as protesters and counter-protesters gathered on separate sides of the River Thames for the Al-Quds Day demonstration in central London. At least 1,000 officers were drafted in to manage the crowds. The arrests were for those showing support for a proscribed organisation, a fray, and for threatening or abusive behaviour. The competing protests saw people holding banners reading "Free Palestine" and "No to Israeli occupation," others holding pictures of the late leader of Iran. Police have released a description of distinctive tattoos on a man found dead in a wheelie bin on Friday as they attempt to identify him. The body was discovered at Cash's Park off Daimler Road in Coventry. The man, thought to be in his 40s or 50s, had a tattoo of a cross with a snake wrapped around it on his back with the words "Little Stardust," and another of a clover and the colours of the Irish flag that was on his right arm. Officers believe he was hit by a car before being moved to the site. And the King Charles Coastal Path is to open all 2,700 miles for walking in England next year. The path will provide a right of access around the entire English coastline for the first time. The sea will always be visible for those on it. More than 1,000 miles of new paths have been created, with bridges built and resurfacing taking place. When it opens next spring, it will be the longest of its kind anywhere in the world. And those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 7.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back. Joining me now is the Labour MP for Kettering, Rosie Writing. Nice to see you this morning, Miss Writing. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I've just interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu's foreign policy advisor, a man called Dr. Ofer Falk. And he says he thinks our Prime Minister's response to this war in Iran has been, quotes, disappointing. Is he wrong?
Yes, I think what Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has shown over the last couple of weeks is an approach where he has stayed calm and level-headed, which is the leadership that we needed at a time like this. The most important role of any government is to protect our national interests. We will always continue to protect our people and uphold our values, but it was not right for us to walk into offensive attacks with the US and Israel at a time like that. And I think the Prime Minister has absolutely made the right decision.
Has he shown leadership, or has he just been pushed around by the likes of Ed Miliband in the cabinet?
No, I think he's shown very clear leadership. I think that it was a time that needed a calm, level-headed approach, and that's what we saw from our Prime Minister in order to protect British people, of which we know that there are people in the region, and we've worked at pace to get people out and protect our military personnel, but not walk into offensive war, which, as we are already seeing, could potentially impact people's outgoings and the price of their energy bills back home. So yes, I think this is the right approach, and it's really, really strong leadership from our Prime Minister.
And you support him sending drones and warships?
I support him making decisions that protect British people and military personnel that are in the region. As we've seen already, we have intersected a number of strikes which would have caused harm to our serving personnel. I think that is, of course, right. And that is very different than joining in on the offensive request that was made originally by the US and Israel. So, yes, I think it's right to protect our people in the.
Let's talk about the Prime Minister's leadership when it comes to domestic matters, not least the appointment of Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to the US. How can he possibly claim that due process was followed at all times. Now we know what we know. We know that a number of different officials pointed out the reputational risk of appointing Mandelson and pointed out his close relationship with Epstein. So if due process was followed, the consequence would have been that he wasn't appointed. So the Prime Minister has misled the House of Commons on this, hasn't he?
Look, what Peter Mandelson has done, how he has betrayed the British people, betrayed the Labour Party, I feel deeply, especially as one of the few young women on our green benches. And I do also want to start by saying, and I don't think this is said enough, how difficult this must be for the victims to hear about this in the media, victims who suffered at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein, but really victims of anyone who suffered sexual violence. My heart and thoughts go out to them as this is replayed. In terms of the vetting of the US ambassador, it is clear what we can see. I haven't read all of the documents, but obviously I've been following the announcements in the chamber and the media, is that the Prime Minister did not know the full extent. Peter Mandelson did lie, both to the Prime Minister and his officials about his relationship with Jeffrey.
That simply cannot be the case that the Prime Minister, quotes, didn't know. Now, I know that one of the pieces of evidence that was put before him, and let's remember, we're talking about a former director of public prosecutions here, so one would imagine he's quite good at weighing up evidence when it comes to prosecuting or defending a case. One of the articles that were put before him was a 2,100-word piece that I co-wrote with two Telegraph colleagues back in January 2024, laying bare the true extent of Mandelson's relationship with Epstein. We had all of the information then. It was all in the public domain. I appreciate that subsequently the Epstein files produced some documentary evidence to back up what everybody in Fleet Street was reporting, but it was in the public domain. So it simply cannot be the case that the Prime Minister can deny Mandelson's links to Epstein. They were written in an article by journalists like me.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that we have seen the full, as you mentioned, full extent since the Epstein files have been released, particularly with images which are deeply, deeply distressing, and I have found deeply distressing to view those images. And I am pleased that the Prime Minister took swift action when we found out that the true extent of his relationship.
Well, he didn't, did he? Hang on a minute. He didn't take swift action. He stood up in the House of Commons and expressed his full confidence in Peter Mandelson. And then Peter Mandelson, the next day, was forced out of his job. So initially he declares confidence. I'm sorry, Rosie Writing, but the good people of Kettering will be scratching their heads thinking to themselves this. He gets warned by Jonathan Powell, his own national security advisor, that the whole appointment has been, quotes, weirdly rushed. He gets warned by other officials, including Philip Barton, that this is a terrible idea. He's got evidence supplied by the likes of Telegraph journalists like me and others of the true extent of the very close, very chummy relationship between Mandelson and Epstein. And we're meant to believe that he was duped by this bloke. This guy's a former lawyer. Why on earth can't he see through Mandelson's lies when everybody else knows exactly what his history is?
Yeah, and Peter Mandelson should never have been in that role. He shouldn't have, and the Prime Minister has apologised for his part to play in meaning he was. What I want to see from my government, and like I said, I'm a backbencher, not in the government itself, is action being taken so nothing like this ever happens again, and we see a systematic change in our process to appointing very important roles.
Okay.
That's why what I want to see is change in the system, a review into our vetting process, so this never happens again. And I think that's what we're going to see from our government.
All right, we're fast running out of time, but finally, if the Prime Minister has misled the House, as seems to be the case, because if due process was followed, Peter Mandelson wouldn't have been appointed, he needs to resign. That's exactly what he demanded of Boris Johnson when Boris Johnson was accused of misleading the House. Very briefly.
I want to see an open process of finding out what happened here. I think that's what we're seeing with the release of the documents, and we will continue to see in the upcoming months so that this never happens again.
All right, Rosie Writing, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Great to speak to you. We should reiterate that Peter Mandelson has previously denied any wrongdoing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, stating, "I was never culpable or complicit in his crimes. Like everyone else, I learned the actual truth about him after his death." He added that he had, quotes, relied on assurances of his innocence that turned out later to be horrendously false.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You though about this measles increase and why it is happening, why this outbreak, and why so many people are unvaccinated.
Well, it's a worry. Measles is not a trivial infection, as you well know. It can cause nasty illnesses.
Did you have it as a kid?
I did.
Yeah, I did,
as
well,
and my son had it as well.
But Ellie hasn't.
No, I was vaccinated though,
Good.
as a
Well,
newborn.
vaccination is very, very effective and very safe. And most children are vaccinated now, but we've had falling rates of vaccination in the last decade, particularly in some areas of the country where it's gone down to below where Afghanistan and Malawi's vaccination rates are recorded at. So this is a worry because unless you're vaccinating 95% of children, the risk of an outbreak is very strong. And that's happening now in Enfield and other places in North London. 34 children have come down with measles already. One infected child can spread it to 18 others. They'll have to be off school for up to 21 days, which is the incubation period.
So long.
But most importantly, measles can kill people. It can cause meningitis, it can cause pneumonia, it can cause ear infections. It's not always a trivial illness. At the best of times, it causes fever, it causes earache, a streaming nose, a raging sore throat. It's horrible. Nobody needs it, but we've got vaccine hesitancy because it's easy to scare people about vaccine.
Well, how do you unscare people? How do you take that hesitancy away?
What you need to do is to get into communities and explain why vaccination is safe and effective, how 100 years ago, 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 died of these common infections, and we've eradicated all that, or we should have eradicated it all.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB Loyalty Points is here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB Loyalty Points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Joining me now is Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho. Lovely to see you this morning, Ms Coutinho. Can you clarify whether Camilla Badenoch supports this war in Iran? She seems to have changed positions in the week. She initially said she stood with our allies, but then she said, but I wouldn't join the war.
So what has happened is our position is the same as Australia and Canada. So we support the US and Israel in their endeavours to stop Iran from gaining nuclear weapons. That's something which would be very bad for this country. We know that Iran is hostile to our country. We never said we would join preemptive strikes, but we would have moved faster than the Labour government in making sure that our allies could use our bases. And that position has all stayed the same. I think what you've got here is Keir Starmer is trying to make hay out of what's happening in a military conflict, and he's trying to tell us that we should praise him for his judgment, but it wasn't even his judgment in the first place. In fact, he thought we should do what Kemi's position was, which was let the US use our bases earlier, and was overruled by his cabinet.
Tories be doing differently right now? I appreciate what you're saying about the decision-making initially, but we've now got the Prime Minister apparently offering to send drones. He may need to react to Donald Trump now asking for more warships, having ruled that out last week. If you were running the government, what would you be doing differently?
Well, we would have been quicker to let our allies use our bases, and I will say this is the first time in decades that we haven't had a naval warship in the Middle East. We know that the Labour government has been very slow to deploy HMS Dragon. We don't know why that delay took place, and I think that is a mistake because you need to be able to protect your interests abroad. Our overall principle is this, though: when we take action, it should be in the national interest, and we should be able to defend our people abroad. That's obviously very important for our own military interests, but also for our relationships with our allies as well.
You're now calling as Shadow Energy Secretary for more energy resilience. Isn't part of the problem 14 years of Tory rule, doubling down on net zero, adding green levies to our bills, and not prioritising, for instance, nuclear, or indeed new licences in the North Sea? That is why we're in this situation right now.
So I definitely think over the last 14 years we didn't get everything on energy right. That's why when I came in as Energy Secretary in that last year of the Conservative government, we made changes. We were pulling back on net zero. I was mandating to protect licences in the North Sea. I signed off Rosebank, a very controversial decision. All of that is being reversed. And the problem that we've got is Ed Miliband is treating energy policy as if this was 10 years ago, but the world has got more dangerous. We need to put energy resilience first. And that's why we should be maximising the North Sea. At the moment, we're importing more from abroad rather than using our own resources. At a time of global conflict, that's simply mad. And we should also be looking at other resilience measures as well. So when we started building nuclear, there was one nuclear welder in the country. Yes, I'd wish we'd gone faster, but we'd started 2 plants and I signed off a third. Labour have now cancelled that third power plant, so there is no future nuclear pipeline in this country for large-scale nuclear, and I think that is a huge mistake when it comes to our resilience.
But again, that was a Tory mistake under the coalition government, wasn't it? Nick Clegg said that we wouldn't be able to bring nuclear power online on time, and the Tories went along with that. Had you actually ramped up nuclear power, we would have more power now in this decade, wouldn't we?
Well, when we got into power fully in 2015, we did start new power plants. Like I said, we came from a base of zero. We had one nuclear welder in this country. We started 2. We took lots of measures elsewhere. And the problem that you've got now is that pipeline that's been carefully built up, all of the expertise, the skills, the technological innovation is not being pushed by Labour. They cancelled the third nuclear power plant that I signed off in government at a time when we should be building our own resilience. And if I could just make this point, the point about nuclear, which I think is why it's so important to back, is it's got the most resilient supply chain. Ed Miliband has doubled down on wind and solar, which is dominated by China, another country which we know is hostile towards us. And that's why I think it's so important that we do go further on nuclear. We've actually supported some of the government's measures on streamlining nuclear regulation. We think they should go further. But I think the biggest problem that we've got is not having that future pipeline.
OK, so you've said that you're under new leadership and that you do regret some of the mistakes of the past. Let me put a few to you now, and you can tell me whether you would change your policy on that. So we had the Tory party, of course, legalising net zero. Was that a mistake?
So yes, we have said publicly that we don't think we should have signed net zero into law without having a plan for it. That's why we would repeal the legislation, the Climate Change Act. We've set that out under Kemi Badenoch's leadership because we do think it's more important to have cheap and secure energy, and that can't sit under a legislation which puts clean energy above us having a resilient and affordable energy system.
OK, the Tories also had a moratorium on fracking. Was that right or wrong?
At the moment, my focus is on the North Sea. So when it comes to fracking, I have no ideological objection to it, but it shouldn't be imposed on local communities. But the problem that we've got at the moment is we have domestic oil and gas production on our doorstep that is in crisis. Yes. We're losing thousands of jobs a month. We are giving up £25 billion in tax revenue. So the priority for the Conservative Party is to make sure that we can keep the North Sea going.
All right, but the Conservatives imposed a windfall tax on the North Sea. That was a catastrophic error, wasn't it?
So we extended it for too long. That was something I fought against in government, actually. But again, just to come back to the crisis we're seeing in the North Sea, yes, I do think that extension was not the right thing to do. But what Labour have done is they've banned new licences. I was protecting new licences. They're refusing to sign off new fields. I signed off Rosebank, even though there's a huge amount of opposition to it. And they are now putting so many taxes on the North Sea that for some companies they have a marginal tax rate of over 100%. That is driving the North Sea into the ground. So we said, yes, we would reverse the windfall tax, but you've also got to end the ban on new licences and sign off those new fields as quickly as possible. And we should be maximising our resources in the North Sea for our energy security, also for the overall economy. There are 200,000 jobs which the North Sea depends on.
Claire Coutinho, I just want to go off-piece slightly, just because I was really intrigued to read that you had written the foreword to a Centre for Social Justice piece talking about motherhood and how 600,000 women could lose out on motherhood. The birth rate is tanking. It used to famously be 2.4 children. It's now 1.4. I know you're a relatively new mum, and it is Mother's Day. How worried are you about the birth rate in this country?
Well, let me start by saying Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you,
yes,
and
I
you.
am a new mum, and I left it very late in life. So I could have been one of those people that wanted to have children and didn't. And so I feel very passionately about this, that we've got to spend more time. It's something we don't like talking about in politics very much, but we've got to spend more time thinking why people aren't having the families that they want to have. I think it's a human tragedy. And it's not only people not having children, but also not having as many children as they would want to. And that's why I was very pleased to work with the CSJ on this. I think it's a really important conversation. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I know it's the most important thing for lots of people that they're ever going to do, and I think we should be making it easier for people to become mothers.
I've got Matt Goodwin coming on the show a little later. He's written a book basically suggesting that white people will be in the minority in the UK by the end of this century. Does that statistic frighten you?
Well, here's the problem. You need to have a working age population to support everything you want to do as a country. And at the moment, we are filling the gaps with immigration, but that isn't a long-term solution. And we have to be honest, that does change the culture and the nature of your country. And so I think that the question which is not being asked enough is why British people are not choosing to have children. It's a conversation, like I said, that I don't think politics is focused on enough. When I was in government, I doubled the childcare budget. I want to make things easier for families. It's why I care so much about energy affordability, another major cost for people in their lives. But more broadly, I think we need to think about how we're talking about motherhood, how we're talking about parenthood generally, why people aren't doing it as much as they would like to. Because one of the stark numbers from that CSJ report is many more people in the country would like to have children and like to have more children than they are actually doing. And I think that is a tragedy, and I think we should start looking at how we can address it.
Claire Coutinho, thank you very much indeed. I think you've battled with the earpiece there valiantly, so I thank you for that as well.
Sorry
and enjoy
about
the rest. No, it's our fault, not yours. Enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. Thank you very much this morning.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and we still have some blustery showers moving through tonight and into Monday morning. It calms down for a little while before then the next weather system moves in. Over the course of the night we do have a cold northwesterly flow bringing those showers in. We can see across the whole of the country this evening and overnight. Some of those showers will be heavy with some hail and thunder across the northwest of the UK, but also the risk of snow over the hills and mountains. Under any clear skies overnight, temperatures will dip away down to 3 or 4 degrees in a few spots, so patchy frost, some icy stretches possible to start Monday morning, and a mixed start. There will be some sunny spells, but also a scattering of showers. Showers most frequent across parts of Scotland. Some of these will be on the heavy side, still falling as snow over the mountains, but there will be some sunshine too, particularly for Aberdeenshire. A mixture of sunny spells and showers for parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England. Whereas actually much of England and Wales will be largely dry. There'll be some bright or sunny spells around after that chilly start to the morning. Cloud increases from the west as we move through the day on Monday. Outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, western fringes of England and Wales as we approach lunchtime. Sunshine becoming limited to the far east, and then eventually rain reaching eastern parts by mid-afternoon. Some southern counties of England will stay dry, temperatures here around 12 or 13 Celsius, but with winds coming in from the southwest, double figures for much of the UK. On Tuesday, it will be a cloudy start for many. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle, particularly in the west. Some heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland later on in the day. An increasing chance of some sunshine across southeast England as we move through into the afternoon. And here temperatures lifting towards the mid-teens and higher further come Wednesday and Thursday towards 20 Celsius.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. When Ed Miliband of Labour refused to do the channel, even though we're facing a fuel crisis and a war in Iran. However, the often lesser-spotted Liberal Democrats on GB News did want to put up a spokesperson, and I spoke to Lisa Smart earlier. Here's what she had to say. Liberal Democrat Cabinet Office spokesperson and Member of Parliament for Hazel Grove, Lisa Smart, thank you very much for joining me. You're at the Spring Conference in York. I believe your esteemed leader, Ed Davey, is due to give a speech today. Can you give us any inkling as to what he's planning to say?
Yes, very much so. We're having a great time here in York, absolutely buzzing with life at our Spring Conference. Very much looking forward to hearing from our leader, Ed Davey, as he takes to the stage this afternoon. He's going to be talking about our values and how we get those liberal values across our country, but particularly he's going to be talking about our nuclear programme. He's going to be calling for the UK to have a fully independent nuclear programme, because with such unreliable allies in the White House at the moment, we need that security, we need that certainty, we need that independence, and that's what he's calling on today, so that we're less reliant on the US.
I'll get onto the nuclear deterrent in just a moment. There's an interesting story in the Mail on Sunday where apparently Lib Dems are telling Ed Davey to, quote, drop the Clown Act. And they're saying that because they're worried about the march of the Greens. Is Ed Davey a clown? And does he need to drop the act?
So Ed Davey is the most popular party leader in the whole of the UK, and I am so proud to be part of his team. He is a truly inspirational leader, whether it comes from his own personal story or the way that he took us to the most successful general election in our history with a record-breaking 72 MPs and the largest ever third party in the House of Commons. We are delivering for our communities across the country, whether in my area in Stockport or up and down the land, and there is such a buzz here at conference talking about all the things we've delivered in Parliament, in town halls across the country and in communities up and down the land.
But isn't there something slightly unserious about his approach? I mean, it's very much student politics to be looking at the situation in Iran, and the person he wants to criticise more than any other is Donald Trump, and America's one of our closest allies.
You're absolutely right to say that America is one of our closest allies, but it's also one of our most unreliable and unpredictable. Donald Trump went into Iran and across the Middle East. We've seen those people much less safe than they were a few weeks ago without a plan. He's gone in an illegal way, absolutely not in line with international law, in a pretty much unilateral way. He has gone without a very clear plan of what he's trying to achieve. He's flip-flopping from week to week. Last week he said he didn't want the UK to be involved. This week he's asking for our help to secure the Strait of Hormuz. He is not a serious person, and yet we need to work with our allies. Ed Davey is the person most speaking out against Donald Trump, speaking up for our values as the UK, and I am absolutely proud of the stance he's taking.
But he's very much aligning himself with Zach Polanski, the Green leader, isn't he, in talking about the US basically being a rogue state. If there's any rogue state in here and in this situation, it's Iran, isn't it?
So nobody will mourn the loss of the Ayatollah, and that regime is an absolutely horrendous authoritarian regime. The Iranian people deserve peace, and they deserve to be able to live their lives without that dreadful regime. But what you can also have is parliamentary scrutiny of the actions of the military. And I think it's entirely right for Ed to call out Donald Trump's behaviour and some of the language that he's been using, just showing a callous disregard for human life, and to say that he might continue to bomb part of Iran just for fun. And that is just abhorrent and goes totally against our UK values. You mentioned the Green Party, and you also mentioned unserious politicians. I think at a time where there is such tension in the world, where there is such instability and real fear in our communities, talking about leaving NATO is surely wholly unserious and deeply, deeply daft.
But isn't there something unserious about you saying that we need to distance ourselves from America? We've witnessed a situation in the last week where we can't even get our only available warship to our RAF base in Cyprus. Of course, we have to be dependent on America, not least when it comes to the nuclear deterrent, because all of our enemies have nuclear weapons. We don't seem to be militarily capable of defending ourselves right now. Who would Ed Davey prefer us to align ourselves to?
Ed Davey's talking about making sure there's independence for our nuclear programme, because I very strongly agree with a lot of what you said there, Camilla. I thought it was an entirely accurate portrayal of the current situation. We need to properly invest in our military, and we need a nuclear deterrent, because that's what keeps our country safe. What Ed Davey's going to be saying today is that we need both operational independence, but we also need to be able to maintain our nuclear programme. The Trident missile programme is still up and running for a number of years, but when that comes to be replaced, we're saying that it should be built in the UK. That's surely good for jobs and growth to be based here in the UK, rather than paying another nation and being dependent on another nation for our safety and security. I think it is wholly serious. I think it is absolutely the right thing to keep our nation safe.
But Ed Davey repeatedly attacking Trump. I mean, since the outbreak of the war in Iran, he's mentioned Trump 12 times on X, on his social media feed. He hasn't mentioned the Ayatollah once. There's no reference to Hezbollah. So say, for instance, if there was some kind of snap election, if the May elections go badly for the Prime Minister, there's suddenly an election and Ed Davey gets elected Prime Minister, his relationship with Trump is shot to pieces. Don't the Liberal Democrats understand that if push came to shove, as has been the case historically, Britain would need to have America as a close ally? And all Ed Davey has done is criticise Trump and alienate the special relationship. That's unserious politics, isn't it?
So I must confess that I don't spend a lot of time looking at the Twitter feed, but what I've heard from Ed Davey in the House of Commons...
spends a great deal of time on X, doesn't he?
It sounds like you know more than I do about Ed's social media feeds, Camilla, but I've heard Ed Davey being wholly serious and the main party leader speaking up for our values as UK citizens. It cannot be that one of our closest allies, as you rightly say, the US, is this unreliable, is this unstable, and is flip-flopping from week to week. We need strong relationships with our allies, and retaining our membership of NATO has got to be the right thing and the only thing. We can be part of NATO, close to our NATO allies, wherever they are across the world, but also call out our friends when they get things wrong. You can't possibly be saying that we should support what Donald Trump has been saying and the way Donald Trump has been acting in this illegal way without calling out our friends when they muck stuff up.
There's no finding at all that this is an illegal war. You're basing that on your own supposition. There's been no legal conclusion drawn by any international court suggesting this is an illegal war. So why are you in a position to say that?
So we've asked the government to publish... We've asked the government to publish their legal advice about the situation, and they have not done so. So we haven't seen the way in which it is in compliance with international law. And from what it looks like from where we're standing, it is not in compliance with international law. The key thing, though, is the fear that my constituents have got because of this action. They're feeling less safe. They worry about some of their family members who might be overseas serving in some of our military bases. And they really worry about the impact that this has on the money in their pockets. We've seen oil prices go up, and the impact that has on energy bills is really, really impactful. I've got constituents who are worried about how they're going to pay the gas bill, how they're going to pay their electricity bill. So Donald Trump's irrational behaviour, his erratic behaviour, has a direct impact on my constituents and the amount of money in their pocket. And that is what Ed Davey is standing up for, those British values and my constituents, because we need stability, security and seriousness in the White House as well as in the House of Commons here in the UK.
OK, I mean, there may be some constituents in Hazel Grove that might have spent some time in Dubai, maybe for work. Ed Davey recently said that we shouldn't be supporting such people to get back to the UK if they're currently cowering under their desks because of overhead missile fire, because they're, quotes, tax exiles. So does the Liberal Democrats really stand up for British citizens, or just only those who don't choose to live in Dubai?
So we believe very firmly that the UK government does have a responsibility to keep our citizens safe, but our citizens also have a responsibility to pay a fair amount of tax. I don't think very many people will see a contradiction in those two things.
But the Liberal Democrats support people being given taxpayer-funded handouts if they arrive here illegally by boat, don't they?
So we think there should be a fair and effective asylum and immigration system, and we've been really clear that what's going on at the moment isn't working. What we have said is that there should be Nightingale processing centres, because one of the real problems with the system is that the backlog is so long, it's taking far too long to process anybody's application. It should be processed quickly, and people who don't have a right to be here should be sent back. We have a responsibility as reliable grown-up nation to play our part in the way that people seek asylum. My nan came here in the 1930s, fleeing the Nazis, and I will be forever proud that our country took her in, and she went on to play a full role in our country. She worked in a post office, she contributed tax, she was part of her community. I'm really proud that our country's got a proud record of that, but I also think we need a fair and effective asylum system, and I don't think anybody's saying that's what we've got at the moment.
I know, but do you understand the contradiction at the heart of what your position is? On one hand, you're quite happy to give taxpayers' cash to people who arrive here illegally by boat. And on the other, Ed Davey is objecting to a degree of state support for actual British citizens that need to flee Dubai because it's currently in danger of being bombed. Do you understand how that doesn't sound grown up at all?
You didn't quite get our position right on those who are seeking asylum. What we think is that they should be expected to work. If they can work, they should be working. The government at the moment bans them from working. And we think they should be working, they should be contributing, they should be paying
But
tax.
you agree
which I
that
think
they
isn't
get
quite,
state support?
the situation you lined
You're
up.
happy for them to get state support, but you're not happy for somebody who's a British citizen living in Dubai to have help to come home because they're, quotes, tax exiles. People who come here illegally don't pay any tax
I don't
at all,
think
do
children
they?
should starve, Camilla. No, I don't. I don't think children should be forced to starve because their parents are banned from working. No.
So if you think that people should be able to get taxpayer support if they come here illegally, what on earth is your objection to British citizens being helped out of Dubai by comparison? They're British citizens.
We have... I agree, and the UK government should work on the safety of British citizens. I also think that British citizens should pay a fair amount of tax, and I think that's part of the deal that we have as part of a grown-up nation, is that we pay in when we can, and we expect safety and security from our government. I don't see a contradiction in those two things.
OK, Lisa Smart, thank you very, very much indeed. GB News will be keeping abreast of Ed Davey's speech in York at your spring conference. Thank you very much.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Wet and windy weather will dominate the central Mediterranean over the next few days, bringing some heavy rain and rough seas to some areas. But actually, it's a fine outlook on Monday for many parts of the Canary Islands, Madeira and in particular Iberia. Plenty of sunshine here. Some heavy rain and squally winds for Corsica, Sardinia, Sicily and southern parts of Italy, though. Heavy rain, perhaps even some flooding in places. But that unsettled weather moves down to southern parts of Greece and into Turkey by Tuesday and Wednesday, leaving a fine outlook for many other parts of Europe.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The UK's former National Security Advisor, Sir Mark Lyle-Grant, joins me now. Lovely to see you this morning, Sir Mark. Can I have your clear-eyed view, please? Because I ask politicians and they've got reasons for saying things, but I think you're going to tell it straight. How is this war in Iran actually going?
Well, we're in a slightly strange situation, Camilla, I think now, where both sides think they're winning, when in fact most objective observers, including myself, think that both sides are probably losing. The one winner that I see today, 2 weeks into this conflict, is Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, because I think Israel does have clear objectives and it is achieving them. And Israel doesn't really mind how long this conflict goes on or what is the end state at the end of it, whether there's regime change in Iran, whether there's a more sort of outward Western-facing government, or whether there's indeed civil war in Iran. I don't think Israel minds too much. And it's used this opportunity to establish an extended buffer zone in Lebanon as well against its enemy Hezbollah there. So I think Israel will be very happy, thinks it's winning this conflict. I think for Iran, winning means survival. And I think President Trump has been somewhat surprised by the resilience of the regime. The regime still seems to be there. There's been some form of succession after the supreme leader was killed. And it doesn't look as though there's about to be popular uprisings on the street, which would destabilize the regime. So it looks as though they could survive for several weeks or months longer. So I think they would probably feel they're doing okay. From America's point of view, militarily, of course, they're completely dominant. They're destroying military installations, leadership all over Iran, but so far hasn't achieved one of the stated aims at the beginning, which was regime change, and I don't think it looks as though it will. And at the same time, they've suffered somewhat from the economic consequences, and many of their Gulf allies are the biggest losers in the conflict so far, with their reputation, their economies, their futures are severely damaged by what has happened.
Donald Trump has threatened to, quote, obliterate the Iranian military in the Strait of Hormuz. How credible is that claim, and how could that be carried out? And indeed, what could be the collateral damage?
Well, he has completely degraded and destroyed a lot of the Iranian Navy. We think that the Iranian Navy had about 150 ships, at least 50 or 60 of those have been destroyed. But the difficulties that we're seeing in the Straits of Hormuz are something rather different, because it's very simple for Iran to keep blocking the Straits of Hormuz, because they have small ships, dhows essentially, that can drop mines, floating mines, mines that are anchored to the seabed, that makes it extremely risky for ships to go through the Straits of Hormuz. And we've seen 16 ships attacked by drones, and that's even before the mines come into effect. And that's going to make insurance very difficult. It's going to make the owners of the ships very reluctant to risk putting ships through the Straits of Hormuz, and that is having economic consequences right across the world. I mean, we talk about the petrol prices in this country, but actually the worst impact is in Asia, where there's been electricity outages, there's rationing of electricity, etc., because of the shortage of oil going through the Straits of Hormuz. So I don't think it's going to be at all easy for the Americans to re-establish a consistent supply of ships going through the Straits of Hormuz.
On regime change, what do you make of these reports about the new Ayatollah being in a coma? We know that most of his family was wiped out in the original bombing on his father, but we also note that a written statement's been issued. He's not been seen in public. I mean, that could perhaps present a chink of light to the Iranian people if the new Ayatollah isn't in the best of health.
Yeah, I think, Camilla, look, it's very likely that he was injured, given that the rest of his family appears to have been killed and his father obviously was killed. So it would be surprising if he hadn't been severely injured in that blast, that initial blast on the first day of the war. But we don't actually know. The Iranians, of course, are claiming that he's fine and he's in control. But the fact that he hasn't appeared at all suggests that he is quite severely injured. However, even if he did die, was killed, it doesn't necessarily mean that the regime will collapse, because the process will continue and there will be other hardline clerics, I think, ready to take his place. So I don't think that is the sort of silver bullet that ends this conflict.
What is the silver bullet, though, Sir Mark? I mean, we've got the US and Israel urging the Iranian people to rise up. So far, we haven't witnessed the scenes that we witnessed several weeks ago, where they were trying to mount their own revolution, presumably because thousands of them have been killed in the streets, and they're very, very scared for their own futures.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, of course, we know that the regime is hated by millions of Iranians, not all, but millions of Iranians who would love to see the back of this regime. But the regime is very embedded. It's been there now for nearly 50 years. And with the IRGC, the Basij, it permeates right down through society. And you can understand why the Iranian people are reluctant to go onto the streets to overthrow it at this point. I think the way this ends is, I don't think it's realistic to think that the regime will collapse. I don't think it's realistic to think they will just agree an unconditional surrender, as President Trump is saying. This ends when Iran no longer has the capacity really to fire any missiles and drones at the Gulf states and to continue to block the Straits of Hormuz. We don't know exactly when that might be, or when President Trump decides to declare victory. Now, of course, he could declare victory tomorrow and say, we have achieved everything we want to do, and so we are now calling a halt. Israel, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I don't think wants to call a halt, because they've still got business they want to take care of in Lebanon in particular. But President Trump at some point could decide that either under domestic pressure, because there is some domestic pressure in America to end this war, or from the Gulf allies to say, we've achieved all that we wanted to achieve, and I'm now declaring victory. That's how I think it ends. And I think that is quite likely myself within the next couple of weeks. I would be surprised if this conflict in this sort of hot phase continues beyond the end of this month.
Finally, Sir Mark, isn't the other winner in all this Russia? It's taken the eye off what's going on in Ukraine. And equally, we read that the US has loosened some of its restrictions on Putin's gas and oil.
Yes, originally in the first sort of days of the war, you would say it was a sort of win-lose for Russia, because, of course, they have relied quite heavily on Iranian drones and equipment to pursue their conflict in their aggression in Ukraine. On the other hand, now, I agree with you, Camilla, I think Russia is beginning to become a winner from this conflict, because the oil price is very high and President Trump, surprisingly perhaps, has loosened some restrictions on the sanctions. So I think certainly Vladimir Putin will be sleeping happier in the Kremlin tonight than he was 2 weeks ago.
Worrying stuff. Sir Mark Lyle-Grant, thank you very much indeed for your insight this morning.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and we still have some blustery showers moving through tonight and into Monday morning. It calms down for a little while before then the next weather system moves in. Over the course of the night, we do have a cold northwesterly flow bringing those showers in. We can see across the whole of the country this evening and overnight. Some of those showers will be heavy with some hail and thunder across the northwest of the UK, but also the risk of snow over the hills and mountains. Under any clear skies overnight, temperatures will dip away down to 3 or 4 degrees in a few spots, so patchy frost, some icy stretches possible to start Monday morning, and a mixed start. There will be some sunny spells, but also a scattering of showers. Showers most frequent across parts of Scotland. Some of these will be on the heavy side. Still falling as snow over the mountains, but there will be some sunshine too, particularly for Aberdeenshire. A mixture of sunny spells and showers for parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England. Whereas actually much of England and Wales will be largely dry. There'll be some bright or sunny spells around after that chilly start to the morning. Cloud increases from the west as we move through the day on Monday. Outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, western fringes of England and Wales as we approach lunchtime. Sunshine becoming limited to the far east, and then eventually rain reaching eastern parts by mid-afternoon. Some southern counties of England will stay dry. Temperatures here around 12 or 13 Celsius, but with winds coming in from the southwest, double figures for much of the UK. On Tuesday, it will be a cloudy start for many. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle, particularly in the west. Some heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland later on in the day. An increasing chance of some sunshine across southeast England as we move through into the afternoon. And here temperatures lifting towards the mid-teens and higher further come Wednesday and Thursday towards 20 Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
GB Loyalty Points is here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB Loyalty Points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benivan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join